On the first day, God created light. And on the second day, he created something referred to as rakia, the firmament, the expanse. And trying to understand what this is something that most people don't really take the time to do. Because most people look at the expanse or rakia or the firmament as space. It's the sky, it's space. But what about all those prophets who happen to see God, the throne, and they look up and they'd see water suspended by the firmament? Literally water, upside down seas and rivers. What is it they saw? What is the firmament? Because the Bible gives some good detail into it. So that's what we're going to take a look at today, is we're going to kind of try to get a good understanding as best we can, because I'm being real honest, the more I looked into the firmament, the more confused I got. So, but God is not the God of confusion. This is something that we are meant to understand and see, and that's what this video is about. So we're going to go all the way back to when he created this, rakia, in Genesis 1, starting verse 5. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, let there be a firmament, rakia, in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So here, the firmament is something that divides waters from above and below, but a lot of people don't interpret it that way either. So you kind of got to look deeper in what is it that the prophets saw. But let's keep going, because in this creation, we'll also jump to 1:8. And God called the firmament heaven, so the evening and the mornings were the second day. Then we'll jump to 16. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the firmament is this space between a layer of water and the water beneath. It's all of the space. Now, I want to take a moment and kind of add, this is not a shape of the earth conversation. This is an understanding of what the firmament is. Because understanding the firmament is something that it's the second thing God created. There's a layer of water that separates us from heaven, somewhere suspended in the sky. And I want to also remind you to not limit God. Because if you were to look at space and whole and say, well, it's so many light years away, well, what's that to God? You could take the entire universe and put it in a tiny ball in front of him, like a small basketball. He is omnipotent. So keep that in mind. Don't limit God. Don't sit there and say, well, the expanse is this big or that big. Because as we're going to see, it is immeasurable. So Ezekiel saw the expanse. So right now what we see is there's sky. He created space, sky, the expanse. But what about these layers of water separating this expanse? Ezekiel sees this. So we're going to go to Ezekiel. And what we're seeing here in Ezekiel 1 is the Hebrews are being led off into captivity, and God, his throne is being revealed to Ezekiel, the living creatures. You know, we're going to go to Revelation 2 because we see this there, and then we also see it there. So what Ezekiel is seeing is God coming down on his throne with these four living creatures. And we're going to go to Ezekiel 1:22. The likeness of the firmament above the heads of the living creatures was like the color of an awesome crystal stretched out over their heads. And under the firmament, their wings spread out straight, one towards another. Each one had two, which covered the other side, and each one had two, which covered the other side of their body. So ultimately what you have is, we'll see in a little bit, those four living creatures are actually part of God's throne. They follow him wherever he goes. So he is below he is within the expanse at this point. He can see that firmament above their heads, this layer of water. So he is looking up and he is seeing the likeness of God. He's seeing the throne. He's seeing all these things, and they have come down below the firmament. And now he's looking up and he can see that above their heads, but it gets even deeper. Let's jump to Ezekiel 10:1. And I looked, and there in the firmament, that was above the head of the cherubim, there appeared something like a sapphire stone, having the appearance and the likeness of a throne. So let's just lay this out. So the cherubim, the four living creatures in God, they're below the firmament. He can look up and he can see that there's this layer that's above them, and it's like a crystal. And as we're going to see in a little bit, it's water. And then above that, he can actually see the likeness of the throne of God. So he's literally looking, the cherubim and the throne, the four living creatures come down, and God, and he's seeing them below the firmament, but he can see through the firmament. He actually see the throne room of God through the firmament. Now, this is pretty incredible. So this is why we're going to go to Revelation, because he is looking into the throne room. Now, it's very important, if you haven't gone through Revelation, that you separate the throne room of God from heaven. These are two total, like where you go when you die is not the throne room of God. So we're looking in the throne room where God conducts his business, so to say. So we're going to go, it's like his office. We're going to go to Revelation 4, where John has been taken up into the throne room of God, and he's looking around and he sees one particular aspect of it. And we're going to go to 4:1. After these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven, the first voice. So he's looking at through heaven. And that word heaven is the sky. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, "Come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place after this." Immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat on there was like a jasper and a sardius stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne in appearance like an emerald. Around the throne were 24 thrones, and on the thrones I saw 24 elders sitting clothed in white robes. They had crowns of gold on their heads. And from the throne proceeded lightning, thunderings, and voices. And there were 7 lamps of the burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. Before the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal. And in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures full of eyes in front and in back. So here he's actually above the firmament. So he's gone through that water layer into the throne room of God. So at this point, what we can say is that there's this expanse. How big it is immeasurable. As we're going to see here in a moment, you can't measure it. Actually, we're going to see Uriel, the angel, be kind of sarcastic about, who can measure this thing? Like, you can't measure it. So don't limit it to like a small dome or something where we're just confined to this small, like it is the expanse. And no matter how big of a tower you build, you can't get through the firmament. And no matter how great of a rocket ship you build, you can't get through the firmament. There are secret doors. And what we saw just now is there's secret doors through the firmament into this next layer of water. And that's what we have to begin to understand, is that the firmament is the expanse that separates earth and its waters from heaven and its waters. That's what it is. So when God comes down to earth, Ezekiel will look up and go, "Oh, I see the firmament above him." But then I can actually see through the firmament, and there seems to be a throne there. And what he's seeing is the throne room of God in the sea. This is the firmament. He's staring at he is above that layer, looking down, and he can see all of creation in that sea. And we know that. Now, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to, don't yell blasphemy at me or anything like that, but I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras. 2nd Esdras is still in the Catholic Bible, so for all you Catholics out there, here you go. But it's important that we see, well, what is it Esdras saw? I'm not saying it belongs in the Bible. I'm not saying it doesn't. What I'm saying is, here to all you Catholics, here's what Esdras saw. All right, I'm going to start in 4:1. Then the angel that had been sent to me, whose name was Uriel, answered and said to me, "Your understanding has utterly failed regarding this world. And do you think you can comprehend the way of the Most High?" Then I said, "Yes, my Lord." And he replied to me, "I've been sent to show you 3 ways and to put before you 3 problems. If you can solve one of them for me, then I will show you the way you deserve to see and will teach you why the heart is evil." I said, "Speak, my Lord." And he said to me, "Go away for me the weight of fire and measure me the blast of wind, or call back for me the day that is past? I answered and said, who of these that have been born can do that you should ask me about such things? And he said to me, if I had asked you how many dwellings are in the heart of the sea, or how many streams are in the source of the deep, or how many streams are above the firmament, or which are the exits of Hades, and which are the entrances of paradise. So ultimately what he's saying to Esdras here is that you can't count, you can't measure the what's above the firmament, the water above the firmament. If you could, then tell me how much fire weighs. Tell me how much energy it takes to blast the wind. Go back in time a day, if that's what you think you can do, Esdras. Now, but it goes beyond that, because I want to kind of get let's say intimate with the firmament here, because God created it on the second day. He made light, and then he made the firmament. Go to Esdras 6:41, it's interesting. Again, on the second day, you created the spirit of the firmament and commanded it to divide and separate the waters, so that one part might move upward and another part remain beneath. So here what God is saying is that he had created the spirit of the firmament. It's almost as if it's a living thing, and he's commanding it to do things because it's part of his creation. He commands it to do. And he commanded it specifically to separate the waters from above to the waters below. And it obeyed him. That's the thing, it obeyed his every word, just like all of creation did. Just like he commands the light, he commands the firmament, he commands the thunder, he commands it all. But really, it's more than that. We're part of creation. It's part of creation. It's part of us, the firmament. So if we go to Esdras 16:57, he searches the abyss and its treasures. He has measured the sea and its contents. He has given the sea in the midst of the waters, and by his word he has suspended the earth over the waters. He has spread out the heaven like a dome and made it secure upon the waters. He has put springs of water in the desert and pools on the tops of mountains, so as to send rivers from the heights to the earth. He formed human beings and put a heart in the midst of each body, and gave each person breath and life and understanding in the Spirit of Almighty God, who surely made all things and searches out hidden things in hidden places. He knows your imaginations and what you think in your hearts. Ultimately saying, this is part of you. You have the Spirit of God. Your desire is to search out these things. Not to go above them, not to be like God, but to have understanding in them. And that's why this video is so incredibly important. So there you go, fascinating stuff. If I was to kind of sum up my understanding of what the firmament is, and again, we're not talking shapes or anything like that, we're just talking about there's this expanse of sky and space that separates what's below us, the waters below us. Then you have this expanse between us and heaven. How big it is, don't limit it. It can't be measured. It can't be measured. And if you think you can measure it, God's just going to make it bigger. If you think you can reach that height, he's just going to tear you down. There's no way you can reach it. There's secret passages in that only angels and principalities of heaven know. This is important for us to believe that we are part of this. This is part of us. We are part of this creation of the firmament. So any thoughts or insight, definitely put that below.